My dad is going into hospice next week, but he's been out of it for the last 6 months. The house he lives in with his wife and 2 adult daughters is mine. I bought it for him to live in after my mom died. He spiraled for a bit when that happened. He lost his job and he was evicted from their apartment. I bought a small house in an older, safe neighborhood for him and his dog. I'm all he has and I love him. 5 years later, he met Maxine, and they married 2 years later. He moved her into the house. I didn't have a problem with that. First, her daughter, then her other daughter moved in. It was not my favorite thing, but it wasn't my place to say anything. Everything was fine for a while. Then one kid decided she was scared of my dad's dog. She got her mom to convince my dad to get rid of Donnie. My dad didn't want to do this, as Donnie was my mom's dog too. He was an old Jack Russell Terrier, and he was about as scary as a dog-shaped rug. I took Donnie. This made Maxine and her kids angry, like my dad found a loophole or something. I would take Donnie with me whenever I came to visit. They always made a big production of it. Such a scary brute. All he did was roll around on the grass and bark at the squirrels. As I said, my dad is going into hospice this week, and I went to talk to Maxine and her daughters. I brought Donnie to say goodbye to my dad. Maxine's daughter said she was glad that she'd never have to have Donnie in her house again. I was planning on telling her that as long as she paid the property taxes, maintenance, and utilities, she would be welcome to live in the house as long as she wanted. She had made my dad happy, and I was trying to be nice. I had my lawyer draw up an agreement that said precisely this. Her kid made me angry, though. I didn't even pull it out. I just gave Maxine an ultimatum. When my dad died, she had 3 months to either kick out her daughter, sign a lease, and start paying a reasonable rent, or move out entirely. She said that the house was going to be hers when my dad died, since they were married. I actually got great pleasure in telling her that it was mine, not because anyone gave it to me, but because I bought and paid for it. I gave her my lawyer's card and told her to check for herself. That was yesterday. She's been trying to call me all day today. I ended up blocking all 3 of them, but not before I heard all kinds of messages about what an idiot I was to do this to a widow and her children. Both daughters work and none of this is really my problem. I was in my 30s when my dad married her. She was never anything to me but my dad's wife, and I never even bothered to learn her daughters' names. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I can only imagine your satisfaction, having gotten a great deal of vicarious pleasure from hearing about her finding out the house does not belong to your dad. It's your property. Your intention was to care for your father. You did that with great honor and respect, to even allow this woman and her kids to live there on your dime. At the same time, he can enjoy dwelling in said property. Sadly, it seems that time has come to an end, and now it's just that, a property that you own to do with as you wish at your disposal. Do not let this person extort your kindness as a weakness because they don't want to do anything to elevate their own position in life, but instead to feed off someone else's. Yeah, wow. Separating dad from the family dog was just cruel. Maxine's daughter's comment about being glad about never seeing the dog again comes off to me like she's glad that your dad is dying so that she doesn't have to see the dog. Even if she doesn't mean it in that harsh way, she showed zero awareness when it came to your dad's relationship with this dog. She showed no remorse in forcing the dog out of your father's home. It would help if you looked up eviction laws in your state, making sure you gave thorough notice, etc. I foresee an attempt at squatting. Exactly. They will either attempt to squat or completely destroy the place. You've given Maxine and her daughters 3+ months notice. That's more than fair. You didn't owe Maxine, basically, a life estate on the home. Everyone hits a tipping point. You hit yours. You owe these people nothing. They clearly never built a relationship with you. They clearly put their own desires above your dad's. I hope you'll talk to a lawyer about evicting them ASAP. If my sister, 20, was cheated on and didn't do anything crazy, I, younger teen, would console her. but she retaliated by stealing the guy's 21 late sister's ashes and flushing that down the toilet. Said so herself. She was still in tears when telling me and our dad about it. Our dad told her it was okay and he had it coming. Then he looked at me and mouthed, "Say something." I only shrugged because I didn't know what to say. I never imagined such a situation before. It's such a mess. I literally have no idea what to tell her. I thought about telling her she was worse than the guy, but I figured that would only start some shouting. Later that evening, she just said that she would talk to her boyfriend and hear him out since she didn't give him a chance to explain himself after her friend told her she saw him with another girl at the mall. It occurred to her quite late that maybe her friend didn't see what she thought she saw. I didn't know she heard about the cheating from her friend. When sister got home, she said the guy denied it and told her he was with their mutual friends, so she called her friend. It took some pressing, but it turned out that this friend had a crush on the guy and made it up to break him and my sister up. However, Dad says I need to support her anyway and that I owe it to my sister because she is my flesh and blood. So I need to know if I'm wrong for not consoling my sister who was cheated on. Darling, you are not the idiot, but if this is true, you should tell her to get a lawyer because she just committed a fairly serious crime. Someone who reacts with this level of crazy over gossip about what a boyfriend might have done without any confirmation is going to have a few trips to prison in the future. She did what? Geez, I hope the guy calls the cops on her when he finds out. Whether he cheated or not, what she did is just unacceptable and honestly totally messed up. You're not wrong. You seem to be the only person with a moral compass. Your sister needs counseling to help control her impulses. I don't know what to say, except do your best to run away from such people. That is not normal or acceptable human behavior. When you get cheated on, you break up, you pick up the pieces, and move on with your life. You don't go on a destructive, vengeful rampage. Your dad should not just enable her bad behavior because she's crying. Also, your dad should not be dumping his parenting duties on you and guilt-tripping you. You have nothing to do with this mess and are too young to be put into the position of fixing your sister's emotional and relationship problems. My wife, Kate, 27, and I, 29 male, host an Oscar watch party at our house every year. We've been doing that since we moved in together 5 years ago. We dress nicely, place bets on the winners, and eat popcorn. It's a fun tradition that many of our friends look forward to every year. One of those people is Rick, 28 male, a friend of mine from college. My wife loves whiskey. Shortly before last year's party, my father-in-law gave her a bottle of Macallan. He said he'd spent $175 on it. Kate gave birth to our first child in 2022 and was still breastfeeding last year, so she decided to save the bottle for after our son was weaned. During last year's party, Rick got wasted. While reaching for something else in our liquor cabinet, he accidentally dropped and broke the bottle. He apologized profusely once he'd sobered up. I was angry, but the whiskey was Kate's, and she forgave him, so I decided to drop the subject. A couple of weeks after that, we asked Rick how he planned on replacing the bottle. He was shocked at our question and told us he didn't intend to. Rick's been having money problems for a while and struggles to pay his rent. He said that since we knew about his condition, it was unreasonable of us to expect him to pay for a $175 bottle of whiskey. I told Rick he had until this year's Oscar party, which was months away at this time, to save up for a new bottle. If he didn't, he wouldn't be welcome at our place for the party. At the time, he agreed. Throughout the year, I asked him about the savings several times. He always told me he was close to the goal. Last week, I asked Rick about it again. He confessed he hadn't saved any money for the bottle, so I kept my promise and uninvited him from the party. Rick and his girlfriend, who frequently joins us at our parties, are now angry at me for uninviting him over an intoxicated mistake. They also insist on being unsympathetic and entitled by expecting Rick to pay for a new bottle. Kate's on my side but is worried we're being too harsh. I don't think we are. but I'm starting to feel guilty as Sunday approaches. I have less than 2 days to sort this out. Am I the idiot? Edit. Rick was the only person at the party who got intoxicated. Many of us didn't even drink. Also, we'd selected drinks and set them on the kitchen counter. Rick went into the cabinet to look for a bottle of liquor without asking me first, and was the only person who did so. Not the idiot. Wasted or not, he broke something that a father gifted his daughter and lied about replacing it. But that being said, if you've known him for a while and he's been a good friend all the time you've known him, I'd let it slide. Friendship is worth more than a few $100s, which was unintentionally lost. I disagree. Rick broke something in your house. He shouldn't be allowed back in until he makes amends, either by replacing the item or covering its cost. It doesn't matter that the item was a bottle of liquor or that Rick was intoxicated when he broke it. This is fundamental guest etiquette. You make it right if you break something in someone's house, accidentally, intentionally, or otherwise. Rick totally took advantage of OP's hospitality to get intoxicated and then bypassed what was out for guests and went to the liquor cabinet to find more liquor. This action is really what puts Rick into idiot territory for me. My brother-in-law, sister's husband, is one of those people who's convinced that no one is happy unless they're in a relationship. I've never been someone who's been all that concerned about finding a man or anything. If it happens, that's great. If it doesn't, I have a life I'm happy with. For the record, I, 28 female, own a successful small marketing business, a home, a car, etc. I've mistakenly allowed him to try to set me up with friends. The recurring issue is that the men might be physically attractive, but beyond that, there's not much else going on. And brother-in-law doesn't quite get that he's hot, he has money, he's over 6 feet tall, is not the panty dropper he thinks. This past time, however, I really upset him with what happened. He introduced me to this guy, Carlos. Carlos is 6'2", went to a good school, owns his own business, etc., etc., etc. However, Carlos is a huge nerd, like geeky nerdy Star Wars and video games nerd. His free time is spent playing games, Dungeons and Dragon nights, etc. His idea of getting dressed for a date night is jeans and a nice button-down. He hates exercise and thinks it's funny that people drink plain water. I am just not attracted to men like this. It's not wrong to think those things, and I believe many other women would be eager to date him. Brother-in-law unleashed his frustration at me, telling me how I'm superficial and care about the wrong things, like it's vapid for me to care about someone's style or hobbies. How he offered up his hottest friends for me, and I just sneered at him like I was such a prize. I just told him to screw off. I said that I'd never asked him to set me up, and if he doesn't like it, to stop trying to hook me up with men. I accepted these dates out of curiosity and being open to what the universe brings, but I won't date someone just because they're physically attractive. I'm not some 20-year-old who thinks that a guy being 6'2" is half of the equation. My brother-in-law yelled at me, telling me that it's weird that I'm 28 and have only been in one long-term relationship and that my clock is ticking. My sisters asked me to try to make nice with him by apologizing. I genuinely don't think I have anything to apologize for. Am I wrong? Not the idiot. I think it's weird that your brother-in-law is so obsessed with your love life that your sister wants you to apologize. A hint of misogyny as well. He sounds more bothered that you're successful on your own without a man than he is, than you not wanting to date his nerdy friends. If brother-in-law can't separate his ego from you deciding not to continue a relationship with one of his friends, he needs to bow out of setting you up. You have clearly said that you guys didn't have chemistry or are compatible. That happens. As long as you're not disrespectful when you end things with these guys, he has no right to be mad. And heck no to apologizing, to keeping the peace. Makes me wonder how many opinions your sisters had to swallow to keep her relationship afloat. Oh, and he should screw right off. Your clock is ticking? Is he from the 50s? That comment is entirely out of line. I don't know why people say you're judgmental. I just understand that your interests and hobbies don't align, so there's not much in common between the two of you. I, 28 female, have been with my husband, 28, for 9 years, married for 2 this summer. We have a daughter who's a preteen. We rarely even fight, and if we do, it's been more major and serious things. This, to me, was a minor issue, but it's now turning into the most significant argument we've ever had. So the problem is that my daughter and I love spicy food. I always have, and ever since I felt comfortable with her trying it, she's loved it too. Sure, we couldn't compete in a spice eating contest, and even though our tolerance is high, it's not extreme. But my husband hates it. He's one of those people who thinks spice is unnecessary and only likes to use salt and pepper. This is not a problem. Sometimes I make a batch that suits his taste and another one for my daughter and me. Sometimes our daughter and I will just eat to his liking, as too little spices is easier to handle than too much as it would be for him. Now, this Saturday, he was away with friends to pick up some car parts. It was a 12-hour drive and they left at about 9. I went ahead and ordered from an Indian place that our daughter has as her favorite. My husband also likes this place and just orders something mild when we eat from there. Since my husband wasn't home, I didn't order him anything because I thought they would have eaten on the road. When he got home, he greeted us, then immediately went to the fridge and saw some boxes of leftover food. When he opened them, he noticed he couldn't eat them. Now, we argued for just about 5 minutes. The consensus of the argument was him saying that I should have thought about him and ordered him something, or I should have asked him if he had eaten or wanted anything. I argued that I would have probably done so if it was just for a few hours he was away, but he was away for over 12 hours and came home about 4 hours after we usually eat, so I assumed he had eaten. Now he's barely talked. He cooked his dinner for himself. In his words, because I can't be bothered, he texted me from the living room when I was cooking for me and our daughter that he hoped I was happy to have my food my way now. He's extremely weird about this. He's never acted this way about something like this, and I'm getting even more confused by it all. Your husband should have told you when he was coming home that he was planning to eat dinner even though he was getting home hours after dinner. Late enough, you would have reasonably thought that he would have fed himself somewhere along the road. Not the idiot for not being a mind reader. Any reasonable person would have thought, oh, husband won't be home for dinner. Now's a good time for the kid and me to get some hot food. Why didn't you cook? Why didn't you think of me? Why didn't you order me this, even though I'm not home? Info. Does he need you to wipe his butt too? What is it with all these grown men on here who can't feed themselves? My man would live on Hot Pockets and ramen noodles if I didn't cook, but at least he'd eat. OP, I think your husband seems to have some underlying issue. Maybe he's feeling underappreciated in some respect in or out of the home, undervalued, or has low self-esteem for some reason. He's making a big deal out of an issue that isn't an issue at all. People only do that when they're holding more than the actual issue in their hearts. Update. We talked this morning and he told me that he just felt forgotten about, and after he ate, he was too ashamed to say he was sorry for starting an argument about this. I also apologized for not even texting him, and I told him I was sorry for hurting him. I also continued the argument without considering his feelings. Everything is great. From now on, we'll just try to improve our communication. Thanks yet again for the help.